So, Virgo, your June 2025 forecast begins with your ruler Mercury in the most visible part of your chart. The 10th house is where we connect to the world at large. Your natural ability to view situations or information in a very precise way could be coming to the attention of some key players, especially in terms of your professional or work-based situation. Now, Jupiter has been in that area for the last year and is going to be moving into a much more social and interactive part of your chart, which could prove very lucky for you from the 9th over the following year. But just be aware that Jupiter has been checked by the rather limiting and sometimes rather miserly energy of Saturn in your sector of relating off and on over that period of time. So even though Jupiter may have given you the appetite to achieve greater success or gain greater recognition, somehow or another, something may have seemed somewhat out of reach. Maybe it's been difficult to just get the attention of some key players in the world that you work in, whether it is a line manager, whether it is getting the interview that you feel you deserve, whether it is that if you have your own business, the clients you really want to get have just seemed somewhat out of reach. But I feel by the 8th of this month, as Mercury and Jupiter come into an exact conjunction, even though the cold-eyed Saturn is squaring them, if you've really applied yourself over the last year, it's going to get very difficult for those people who may have been a bit cool with some of the ways you approach things. It's going to be very difficult for them to resist just what you've got to offer. So do have maximum belief in yourself as you enter this month. It's just that along with Mars, you do have the moon in your 12th house at the start of this month. And whilst Mars is linked to Venus through to the 6th, it's still really interesting in terms of a connection that you may at that point want to keep confidential. Mars in your 12th house, where it's been since the middle of April, and then again if you cast your mind back from the early part of November through to the 6th of January, the Mars 12th house transit is one of the toughest in astrology, but you've had that along with Saturn in your 7th house of relating. So I feel the psychological dimension of certain connections. If you haven't really felt that you've been part of something, or you felt somewhat excluded, even if it's been quite subtle, or you have been experiencing some, really being ostracized in some kind of way, or past issues to do with upsets, disappointments, betrayals, rejections, accidents, anything which may have had an impact on you psychologically, Mars has been stirring up for some while. So I think, much as Jupiter is going to be moving into a much friendlier, bubblier, and effervescent part of your chart on the 9th, and you do have a lot of social energy in your chart later this month, I think the standout development for you this month, Virgo, is Mars moving into your sign on the 17th. He's going to be there through to the 6th of August. What Mars in our own sign does, particularly in your case, that precision that's part of your nature, you have the thrust, the determination, but also the stamina of Mars in the 1st house. The 1st house relates to our body. So if you have been feeling run down, those work demands, even if there have been some successes, have still been having somewhat of a toll on you, or you've been dealing with difficult suppliers, contractors, business associates with Saturn in the 7th house, or maybe your love life has had some roadblocks along the way. It's all felt quite turbulent, and even if you are someone who likes to keep things pretty steady, there may have been times when your emotions have been surprisingly up and down. So Mars bursting into your sign on the 17th is definitely the thing to celebrate most this month. It really is going to be great for you because later in the month, Mars also forges a superb alliance to the new moon in Cancer on the 25th. And because that energy of both Jupiter and Mercury moving on the 9th into the part of your chart to do with friendships and connections, even if there have been some profound disappointments with certain people, there's going to be a renewal around the people who are truly good for you. And it really starts on the 6th, when Venus makes its way out of a very subterranean part of your chart, which can be very passionate, hot in Aries, somewhat impulsive. Maybe you have linked up with someone, perhaps even in a secret alliance with Venus's connection to Mars through the month of May. What you're really searching for is someone to be proud to be with you. So if a relationship can never really fulfill your ideology in terms of being for the longer term, being visible, open, honest, it will be tested from the 6th for a week because of Venus clashing with the deep transformational energy of Pluto. Because Pluto is really interested in your overall situation. Pluto in its retrograde in the 6th house could be shaking you up around some of the things that have been in place for quite some time. Now, the 6th house can be the processes of our work. The 10th house is more the status, the connection to the world at large, the role that we're in. And Pluto, therefore, could be in some ways making you more conscious that some of the things that are being part and parcel of the rhythm of your life may need to deconstruct in order to be reconstructed in a way which is better for you in terms of your physical and emotional well-being. But on the 9th, the fact that Jupiter moves into the 11th house, but also into the sign of Cancer, where he is exalted, is a good news story. But I feel that some of the astrologers might omit to say that Jupiter is going to be squaring with Saturn as he arrives. That square becomes exact on the 15th. Why is it very important? If you recall, on the 20th of August last year, I think, and then we had Christmas Eve, and then early in the new year, Saturn and Jupiter were exactly square. In astrology, this is one of the biggest influences there is in terms of cycles, because Jupiter is about expansion, Saturn can be about contraction. If we work with them astutely, we can get a nice balance, because Jupiter can trick us to think that everything's possible. So for example, in the 10th house, if you thought that something would unfold around a career or business move that hasn't done so at the pace you would like, it will be because of the resistance that Saturn has been created. So even though Jupiter moves into your 11th house, which can be friendly, can be noble, can be about our connections in terms of our social situation, our long-term plan, the things that go beyond the material and tangible world of the 10th house, that square with Saturn suggests if there are some people in your world who do have very different values to you, you must be realistic, because that is likely to be shown over the following year. Year 2025 is absolutely speeding by, and back by popular demand is my very unique personal horoscope offer. You can order your year 2026 forecast now, but also get the rest of year 2025 free. Also, my special package, which is totally unique to each person it's produced for, you'll get your life roadmap report. This is the most important document any of us can ever read, because this helps to give us searing insights into the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, but importantly, how to work with that energy future forwards in a much more effective way. The forecast helps you to time your moves to the best advantage. Please see the link below for more. Now, on the 11th, there is a full moon. It's a full moon in your case which emphasizes the part of your chart to do with your emotions. And a Sagittarius full moon, therefore, is in some ways about the need to have some space and freedom. And whether it's physical space by decluttering the home, or it is having your own interests, perhaps getting out into nature. The 4th house very much to do with the environment, whereas the sun is asking you to really go for it in terms of your goals and ambitions. And if work is taking up too much of your resources, the full moon is asking you to be sensitive to yourself. But there is a T-square with the nodal axis, of which the south node is in your sign. So you could find yourself conflicted in some kind of way around a work-life issue, maybe the support you need to give to people, youngsters, could be older relatives, maybe domestically against work's demands, but how you communicate it to others. And the North Node in the 7th house of your situation is saying the more you can work on having very constructive relationships with people, because Saturn may have really brought a cold wind to certain relationships, the better it's going to be in trying to find that balance. But then by the 17th, we have Mars move into your sign. So I really love that. We do have Saturn and Neptune in your 8th house from the start of the month. Let's think about the 8th house. The 8th house can be about intimacy. It can be about long-term financial planning. It can be about where we're most invested emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, but also intimately in terms of a very close relationship. Saturn can create barriers, of course, but it also can push us to get better at that particular area of life. Neptune, on the other hand, very interested in the 8th house. The 8th house can also be our psychological domain. If you're someone who does resist a little bit, looking at some tricky inner issues, I think Saturn, this first blush through to the end of August, perhaps not so much too, but from the middle of February next year, you are going to have a couple of years where Saturn will be asking you to explore just how comfortable you are with that level of devotion, investment, or is it coming back to you in the way that you want. So that is going to be a bigger theme for sure. But the 21st sees the summer solstice, a glorious event in Western tropical astrology, which is based on the seasons. So we have the Earth point, the cardinal point, ushers the sun into Cancer, 13-week backdrop. As it does, it's in a conjunction with Jupiter. So on the face of it, that sounds all fair and dandy. It's just Saturn. So the idealism of the 11th house, which can be about friendships, is challenged in some ways by the financial reality, or the reality of what sharing really does mean. So we can have an idea or a plan. How would it actually be actuated? That's what Saturn particularly is asking you to consider. That said, on the 24th, you could have a meet-up with a group of friends or one person in particular, and it could be really good fun. The new moon on the 25th gives you a chance over the following month to take much more of a lead around certain relationships. Just be aware, however, your ruler does move into a delicate part of your chart on the 26th, a psychological area that Mars has just left, and it is in an opposition with Pluto. Someone could be surprisingly direct in making an observation about your approach, particularly to your work. You're the person who can often be very attuned to details. Someone may be attuned to a detail in your approach to something. So just be conscious that there is that lives side by side with that buoyant, bubbly energy, which is very social. So if you are wanting to meet up and have a much more interactive time through the summer month, particularly July, that new moon will help you. It's just being aware that with Saturn and Neptune in the 8th house, that is very deep stuff to do with transformation. Some of the things that we need to release that we may be a bit too much attached to, but it could see people coming into your world who are going to be profoundly important to you, but that might interfere with some of your plan, because Jupiter in the 11th house can be pretty idealistic. So it's about keeping one foot on terra firma, but if any person can do that in the zodiac, it's you. Have a great June. Take care and goodbye.